Thank you guys so much for coming to this podcast forum. Welcome to Longmont Public Media. My name's Tim. I'm the community manager here, an admin. And if you've never been here before, we're a media makerspace. We got a TV studio. Well, I always say we've got a TV studio. You're inside a TV studio right now. It's here for live events. You have a green screen. You can film TikTok videos here. You can film movies. We do product photography in the back, and all kinds of crazy things in this space. Something interesting to y'all is that we have a podcast studio downstairs. And if you haven't seen that and you'd like to check it out, find me after the show. I was going to say after the forum, and I'd be happy to give you a tour of that. We also have a music studio. J-Mac back there records music. He was recording music there earlier today. I got a lot of great musicians making music there. Welcome in. And what else do we have here? We have editing studios. So you can edit your podcast, you can edit video, you can do all kinds of stuff here. If you'd like to learn more about that, come find me at the end of the show. I'm always here Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. I'm always happy to help out and give tours. Now we get to housekeeping. I was going to say happy hour.
Sweet.
Not yet, Tim. Not yet.
That wasn't included in the
happy hour
rubbish.
yet.
Bring it on.
But yeah, it'd be welcome. That'd be all right.
I should have gotten a happy hour. So housekeeping, we are recording. There's cameras recording. Don't worry about those. They're doing what their things. We're going to open it up for questions at the end. So while we're going, think of questions you might have. And if you would like, I'll send up a follow-up email after this telling you a bit more about the resources. And if there's anything we talk about that you'd like me to send links, I can send it to all of you. If you didn't register online, then give me your email address over there, and I'll send you the follow-up email from this. I think that's all the annoying stuff. So let's get to the panel. I'm so thankful for all these wonderful folks for taking their time out to join us and give us some of their knowledge on podcasting. So first, let's have you all introduce yourself and the name of your podcast, and maybe just a little bit about yourself, or a medium amount about yourself.
Sure. I'm Johnny Schober. I am the producer and editor for Side Dish Longmont. Your podcast about Longmont, everything you want to know and very little that you need to know. Hey, you got stickers right there. I come from a music background, though. I'm fairly new at this. I've only been doing it maybe 3 months, and I only feel like I've recently kind of know what I'm doing. So if you're just starting out, I might be the guy to talk to.
And I am Brady Steffel, the host of Side Dish, I guess the longest running host. It was started several years ago, I think 2019, circa September. Eric Hozempa said, "You seem like you've got things to say about things," which I do. Not always good. But he said, "Do you want to be involved in a podcast? Because you can keep up patter," which I can. And I said, "Sure, why not?" So we'll get to that question formally later. But I am the host of that. I host with Annie Larner. We brought on Johnny because it is a ton of work to do high-grade work. You can do a bunch of garbage if you want pretty easily. And we're always looking for more volunteers. But yeah, so I do that. And otherwise, I am a writer. I do grants and that sort of thing, and thoroughly enjoy talking to people and being in the community more than sitting at my desk chained there for all of eternity, which can be a drag. But that's me.
Thanks. And thanks, Tim, for hosting this, and thanks to Longmont Public Media for creating the platform. I'm Michael Bragg, and I started a podcast last year called Workforce Bliss, which is about engaging with the workforce, the labor force. And I just launched yesterday a podcast called Voices of Colorado Manufacturing, to create a platform for manufacturers to have a voice to the public, to each other, and to our regulating bodies. It's a creative endeavor. I love it. I was very unprepared for the whole process, but I learned how to do it here at Longmont Public Media.
That's perfect. And that was kind of a fun part of the panel. I felt we have like a wide range of like how folks have gotten into it and experience. And I think an important thing to start off with is that anybody can start a podcast. It's not super hard to get started, and we're here to make it as easy as we can. I'll say a little bit about myself as a podcaster. I introduced myself as someone who works here. I also host a podcast called Songs Off the Vine. It's a songwriting podcast. We've done one season, and I called it the end of a season because I did 10 episodes every week and then got too busy to make another one. So I was like, I'm just going to stop, and then when I have more time, I'm going to call it season 2. So part of this is I want to learn more about how to become less burned out and continue my podcast from these folks. So this is selfish. Let's start with the beginning, though, of how y'all got into podcasting. When did you have the spark of an idea to start a podcast, and what led you to show up here? Let's start with Michael.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. The reason I had the idea for a podcast is because I was working in a job where people were really unsatisfied. My daughter was really unsatisfied in her job. She's a public defender, Arapahoe County. She's really dissatisfied in her job. She started a union in Arapahoe County of public defenders in Colorado. Yeah, and it was the whole thing. And my son was really unhappy in his job, and I could just see so many people. And so I was like, we got to talk about this. We have to explore ways that we can change the way that we're engaging with the workforce. And so it was just a way to start talking about it and interview people who are doing it well.
Yeah. So in like late summer of 2019, Eric Ozempa said, "Hey, do you want to do this thing?" And the impetus is really to just talk about the city, to look at kind of openings and closings and why this road is torn up and what the city council is up to, if there's anything too important going on, and just all of that kind of stuff. And then to find like Longmont locals or people from the Front Range and to get them on and to share their stories. So it's been kind of an interesting experience. And I was at the time kind of like, yeah, sure, let's fire it up. That sounds good. I'd love to hang out. I like you. Let's hang out in the basement and do some recording. So why not? And I mean, then the pandemic hit, and there was a lot of like, oh, hey, we're hanging out on Zoom, and the quality's terrible, and whatever. And so then we put a bunch of road bumps into our own way, saying like, now the quality's bad, and people might have engaged. So there's struggles there, right? So, but now, yeah, we've got this, and we're looking to grow and whatever. But we've done it throughout the years because so much is happening in Longmont compared to where I grew up in a town of, I think it was 13,300 people when I left. And I think it's roughly the same now. Like it doesn't do anything. And very deliberately the city council says, we just want to keep New Ulm, Minnesota pretty much the way that it is. This is what we want. And moving here, I remember going, oh, well, we're gonna outpace Boulder population-wise. And then, okay, well, that's kind of interesting. Like, we're growing so fast, that must be a new phenomenon. And it's like, no, if you look out back at all of Longmont's history, it's been growing at a pretty dramatic rate throughout the entire time. And for me, I'm going, well, I thought towns just like got to a certain level, hit plateau, and said, all right, push the clutch in, like we're done. That's all we want. So it's been really fun to have that counterpoint from my youth and places that I've lived, to watch this place grow and develop, and to watch people have this community at places like this, and just to talk about it, to get together, to have an experience, and to chat with people. So that's why we keep doing it.
That's great. I think that's one thing that makes Longmont so interesting, is that there's like, maybe I haven't lived in a ton of places, but maybe more like prominent voices talking about what it's like to live here, and like, especially for a town of this size, I don't think it has that as much. So I love that y'all are doing it. Johnny, how'd you get into podcasting? You don't host a podcast now, right?
I do not know.
But I know we've talked about podcast ideas, so I know you have
talked
them.
about ideas. I have ideas.
He's got
but you
ideas.
cannot survive on ideas alone, it turns out. No, I got involved in Side Dish because I knew Brady from crawling around his attic as his electrician.
Yeah.
And I knew that he was doing this, and I recently left being an electrician full-time to pursue more creative endeavors, and knew that they had the show. And I actually think I recorded the first episode before I even listened to it. I was just kind of like, Brady's a cool guy. I'll show up.
This should be fine.
And then after I listened to it, and it was like, oh, they're actually like they're talking about cool stuff, and I like Longmont. I'm planning on staying here forever. So like, let's do this. That's how I got into Side Dish. I'll let you know when I actually follow through on my ideas.
And we got super lucky that like you just have the right conversations. And again, this is a big part of the community aspect, where if you put yourself into the community and you're having conversations, then these sort of partnerships naturally grow, which is such a wonderful thing to do. And so I thought for a long time, like, hey, and we'd said on the podcast, if anybody wants to, and like a cold solicitation from a podcast and you don't really know the people is one thing, but then you're talking to somebody and you're like, it's like, oh, I might be interested in helping out with something like that. It's like, really? I mean, the hours are fine, but the pay is terrible. We don't make any money doing this. But we'd be happy to have you, and it's been wonderful. And then you realize how much further you can go with more support and being part of the community. But yeah, so loved having you.
Love being there.
That's how it's supposed to work. Let's get into like a little bit of nuts and bolts of like when we first started making podcasts. I give people tours and show people the podcast studio here, almost a couple times a week, and see people walk into the studio and be like, this is cool, and then see them sit down and put headphones on and hear their voice back, and that kind of changes everything. So I'm interested in what your first experience was like when you sat down and put headphones on and heard your voice back. And if you were like me, it was like, oh my God, why do I sound like a baby? This is terrifying. And how you got from that, and then when you hit record, how you dealt with, oh my God, there's a red light that people one day hear, and how you got over that like first kind of initial moment of being yourself on a podcast and just starting to record. So let's start with Michael.
Sure. Thanks, Tim. It's funny that you say that because actually I think I was amazed at how great the quality is of the microphones in the podcast studio, and I had no idea what the technology would be like or how hard it would be to use. And Ryan was the teacher. I took a class here with 2 other people. It was like $75 a year ago. And I took one class, and then I started a podcast. It was really that, I was underprepared, I'm not going to lie. But I thought the quality of the equipment was so good, and when I listened to my voice, I was like, wow, it sounds like a really good podcast, not like one that someone's recording in their bedroom on their computer, because now I can really tell when someone's using high quality equipment and someone isn't. The great thing about LPM is it's free if you're a resident of Longmont.
$30 a year now. We got rid of the completely free. Close to $30 a year.
$30 ain't bad.
It's $1,
practically
$1 a
free.
month. Yeah. What was that experience like for you?
For us, it was a lot different because when we first started, I can't remember if you guys were in here, if we just weren't established, or how that all worked, because Eric set it all up. But when we went down, I think basically, what was the guy's name? The older guy that worked here in the basement. There's like doing.
The radio station.
Yeah.
We still don't know who that is. He comes in, it's terrifying.
Some say he's still down there.
No, he was such a nice guy. He came and set us up, but he'd set up us every time, and we had a task cam or something similar, and set up a couple mics, and then would just record, and we had no idea what really was going on with the unit, because it had a unit that's 8-10 inches long at the most and 3-4 inches wide, and it's big enough for some AAA batteries, and then you roll with it. And so it's like, sure, I guess this is doing something. Like, I have no idea. And then the mics were just on the table. And so the issue with the table downstairs is if you hit it at all, like the sound transmits up through. So if we want to start a donation drive, I would go in for sound isolating mic arms. That'd be one of the big things that I would love to have. Because I'm a flailer, I like to articulate, gesticulate, and so you bang. But my first experience was really just no headset, nothing. It was just, we're going. And when I put the headset on, it's like, yeah, it's a little weird, but like some of these other guys, I also play music and would listen to myself while I was recording from time to time. So that wasn't too bad. And then now I can listen back, and it's just 10 seconds of wincing if I haven't listened in a couple of weeks, and I go, it's like, you're doing okay. You're doing okay. Your voice isn't so bad, and have come to embrace kind of the elements of my voice that people used to tell me to be quiet about. Because I used to get told, and like, Brady, you need to shut up. And it's like, dude, they're talking. It's like, yeah, but your voice is like, so I think I'm happy with that for the radio. So yeah, it was very, very different. And the setup now is so much better than it was. Yeah.
It is. So you can like pretty much, if you haven't used the podcast studio, you can walk downstairs, turn it on, and like turn the mics up, and like it sounds pretty good. And you can hit record, and like you're making a podcast, and it'll sound better than a lot of people's podcasts who do it on their phone.
Well, a lot of people do them over Zoom or other technology, and you can tell with all the compression and stuff, it sounds pretty bad. Like, they work, and if the topic is really, really scintillating, then great, let's go. But when you have an actual studio and you've balanced the mics and stuff, which is pretty easy, it does. Yeah, it's so much different.
Yeah. Johnny, I was listening to Side Dish podcast, and I heard the first time I heard Johnny's voice coming on during ads. And I
Yeah.
was so excited.
Yeah,
How
I
was that for
recorded
you?
some ads. I got over hearing my voice recorded as from a musician standpoint, I think, where it's like I've been recording music since I was 13, and actually I made a goal for me to plug my band while I was here immediately, and I forgot to do it. Queso Raw. Go listen to them. Okay, that's it. I did the plug. I did it. It's just hearing my singing voice, which I was not a singer. It was kind of, I was in a band, and then the singer quit, and we had a show. Show goes on, so I sang, and I was like, that wasn't too bad. That wasn't too scary, and did that. And no, I was just listening to actually old recordings yesterday with a friend, and it was like, I remember hearing hearing it originally, being like, this is awful. This is the worst thing I ever heard. And like, I was listening to the day, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was so good. So, I don't know. Did I answer the question?
That's perfect. That's perfect.
Excellent.
I'm glad we plugged Queso Raw. They're, side note, they're a wonderful band. So we like them so much. They're playing our wedding in a month.
Yeah, in a month.
So, yeah.
I have rehearsal after this.
You better
Learn those songs.
Better not mess it up. I remember the first time I recorded a podcast is with my fiance, who's actually here, back there, Jenny. She's also a songwriter, so I was like, that'll be the first guest for the podcast. And it was like a different challenge for us because we did it in our living room, and we were like really pretty comfortable talking into mics. And then we recorded an hour-long podcast, and we were so loosey-goosey. You can probably I'm kind of overly loosey-goosey on the mic anyways, but for a podcast, it's like kind of need to dial it in a little more. And I think we thought about not releasing it because I was like, I don't want to know if this should be the first podcast. They're just coming into our like living room, and it's will people enjoy this? Jury's out on that, but we did it anyways. But that's one thing too. I think as you go on and record more podcasts, you learn what feels good to you and what feels natural to you, and there's only one right version of your own podcast, I think, and that can't be anyone else's podcast. While we're still on that nuts and bolts thing, let's get into the worst part of it, which is editing. A lot of people have different approaches on editing. So let's start Johnny this time, because I know you do a lot of editing.
Yeah, I mean, I do editing for Side Dish, which it's definitely correct and overcorrect. Like I said, it's I've only been doing this 3 months, so actually I think I was doing more when I first started. It's like I edited one today. It's like I used to be like, every is getting out of here. We're not going to let a single through this gate. And now I'm like, this is absurd. What am I doing? But a lot of it is, so Brady was talking about his voice, his booming voice. A lot of what I do for editing is getting Brady's voice out of everybody else's mics, which is, I've got a system now. I have like a template that I made. So a lot of it is just, I open it, I hit record, and like 80% of it's done. And then I kind of go through after the fact.
You didn't tell me you were doing that.
Oh, I got my secrets.
No, it's fine. It's probably good to do because people always ask me like, "What do you do? What's the mics and whatever?" It's like, "Are you going to be loud enough?" It's like, "Oh, I'll blow the doors off of this place.
Yeah.
Don't worry about me." But,
yeah. So like I mean, just because like with music, it's like the first thing that I learned is like you get good takes. If you get good takes, the rest of it's going to be so much easier. So it's the same with podcasting. If you get your mic set up, and this isn't something you have to do every time. Like I said, I made the template now. So like the first probably month was a lot of like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? And it was just, my goal was, how do I make it like 10% better each week? And I really haven't changed much like since then. And that's just sound quality wise. Like Brady and Annie handle all the pre-show stuff. They do good research. So it's like the content is good. How do I deliver the content in a way that makes more people want to stick around for it? Is how I kind of approach the editing. But templates, holy cow. I work in Logic, which is, there's a lot of different recording interfaces you can use that are much cheaper. And not to say they're not good. It's just Logic can be a barrier. But there's stuff out there that you can get started right away with. And it's like, if you just figure out like, oh, hey, like if I put compression on it and I don't make it sound like a tin can, because it's like kind of dial it in, where like Brady has his own compression on his voice now. Annie has her compression because they speak in very different ways. So it's get a template, because like if you have a template, and especially if it's just you doing your podcast, it's just one person talking, it's like you could have a significant amount of the work done by the time you've hit stop. So templates.
templates. And you mentioned Logic, and we do have Logic in the audio studio downstairs. So if you sign up as a member, you can use Logic for free. And the audio studio is a little more complicated to use than the podcasting studio, but it sounds amazing, and the speakers are really nice. So that's a good option. So we're musicians. I know you're a musician, and kind of maybe we have a little more background when we're, like editing 2 vocal tracks at the beginning wasn't a whole lot. I remember when Michael came in. I don't think you're a music. Are you a music? Your husband's a wonderful
My
musician.
husband's
though.
a great musician,
Yeah.
Barry Bragg. Shout out to my
Yeah.
husband. I really underestimated how hard it would be to do the audio editing. I tend to jump in. I'm an activator, and I tend to jump in without having context. And so I was like, oh yeah, I can. I recorded it. Now what? Like, it's recorded, and then bringing it to editing was a whole other ball game. And so, luckily LPM, I just went to Tim, like, what's the best software to use? And then, I just started listening to it. At first I got really impatient with myself because I do like to get to the finish line. I'm a finisher. I want to get done with things. And I didn't realize it was going to take me like 3 hours to edit one. After I don't know anything about templates. I'm leveling up here myself. I'm learning more about how to do podcasts. But the editing was frustrating for me at first, but now I really enjoy it because I can also go, oh, I don't like the way I sounded in that question. I don't like the way I answered that question. I don't want to include that question on my podcast. And so I can edit out whatever I want. Like, I'm the master of my own domain.
What was the process like learning? Because I think you started on Adobe Audition, right?
That's correct, and that is what I've been continuing to use. I do like it.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And YouTube, there's all kinds of videos for if you don't know how to, I just learned multi-track this week.
YouTube and Reddit. Holy cow. Like, I do not have any formal education in this, but like YouTube University, Reddit University, you can learn a lot.
It's crazy how we didn't used to have that.
One thing I've been using too for stuff like that, and like mixing and editing and just getting like if you get a voice, or especially in music, but like if you're like, I don't know what to do with it, it sounds like this, to put that into ChatGPT, and I say I'm using Adobe Audition, and then it'll be like, oh, maybe try a compressor with these settings, and it's ChatGPT. Who knows if it's perfect, but it gives you an idea at least.
It's drawing from all the false information I've been putting online.
Yeah, it's your fault.
right.
So it sounds horrible at
I had
first.
to work really hard to spread that.
Yeah. Well, how about editing for you, Brady? I don't know, even before Johnny was in.
So before Johnny came on, our editing process was, is it recorded? Great. And if the guest didn't have anything that was like, oh, God, I shouldn't have said that on air. I actually really love my mom. I don't know why I said that. Or actually, that real estate deal is... that's not public knowledge. Can you cut that? And we would do that. So that was the kind of thing that we would do. And that was pretty much the extent of it. So we would just do long form. And that meant that every single week, and I still do because I practice now, I go, hello and welcome to Side Dish, your podcast about Longmont. Everything you want to know and very little that you need to know, And then we'd launch off from there. And so it was just do a big fat one take. And that worked. Like, it was fine. And when we moved here, back from the dark days of COVID and all, then the audio quality went up again, and then I got medicated, so I got ADHD and didn't know it, and then I started to really I could probably actually have conversations that other people want to listen to, and then the editing for me was less go in, splice, apply templates, do that kind of thing, and really thinking about holistically what I want for the show. And what I want to do and who we want to be bringing in and what kind of voice we want to have and what kind of community we want to build. And do we want to talk to nonprofits? Do we not want to talk to nonprofits? Because we didn't at one point. Because Eric Ozempa runs the Longmont Community Foundation. And so then it's like, well, do you want to mix, do I want to be favorites and and do I want to then open the floodgates? So there's those types of questions that we had asked too. And that's like sort of as we've gone along the way, we've grown into it. I will say that if you're editing outside of this type of thing, you can spend as much time as you want editing because I will do social media type stuff. And so if you want to promote, build community, this is a thing that we've been trying to do more of recently. You can spend as much time as you want making a single social media post with an audio clip. It's like, oh, well, it's an audio clip, but I want to convert it to a video because the system that I'm using won't put the captions on to put on Facebook if I don't have a video. So I'm converting audio to video, then video goes to the thing, and then you do the captions and you're back, and now I've got to slap a a photo on the front of it or something. So you can spend as much time as you want there. I understand that video editing, like industry standards, something like a minute or an hour per minute of finished content. I'm hoping that the audio doesn't take that long.
It doesn't.
That's good. Yeah. Because we don't splice together and stuff. So our philosophy is really we're having a conversation. We want you to know this person that we're talking to. We want you to know who we are and feel like it's just a conversation. And the biggest compliment I can get from somebody when the conversation's over is like, "Oh, I forgot I was doing a podcast. It was really nice talking to you guys." And then they go home. And I hope that people want to listen to those types of conversations. So editing for me is like a lot of social media nonsense that, I could take or leave a lot of days. But the rest of it, we try to edit kind of the way that we think and approach conversations ahead of time to save ourselves that sort of headache.
I think that's a good move. And it's so tough to know, like, when you're starting, like, when you have the control of, like, you can really pare it down or you can let it all flow. And I think there's somewhere in the middle is probably right.
And what's funny about that, too, is, like, there are definitely conversations that I would let run long. And then Annie's like, so she's giving me the hand signals, like, nobody cares about the game you just downloaded. Like, let's go. And some people might, but some people might not. But so we edit each other too, kind of in situ.
That's why Side Dish works. I'm like, I need an Annie in my podcast because I'm just gonna keep going.
She's like, give me one of these. It's like, all right.
Yeah.
As the corner rounds 10 minutes of Radiohead talk, she's like, okay, yeah, no, Longmont though, Longmont.
Listen to that episode, and I think she does a great job of easily interrupting you without making it too obvious.
I think that's the thing about having done it for so long is that we have a rapport now, and I mean Annie will just interrupt me whenever anyway because that's sort of it's you dukes out a little bit if you're having a conversation with somebody. There are definitely interviewers that are sit back and like invite and tell me more, and I'm more of the like we're here hanging out, let's just have some crazy conversation and get to know somebody's past and try to pass it to them as often as possible. But Annie is like
Longmont.
And so she does, and I think we've built up a good relationship, and a lot of the work that we do in the booth isn't really in the booth. It's developing that relationship. Just we know who each other are. We know that she's not trying to offend me if she's jumping in or whatever. And that's where a lot of the work I think is done. If you want to have a conversational podcast, is just to develop that rapport.
It's more like honing a craft than anything else. I was going to say, because you guys definitely have like that flow back and forth, and I just normally get to sit there. And I think the last episode, all I said was, Johnny Schober, hello. And then I just sat there, and it's great. Like, you guys do such a good job.
Johnny does jump in and sort of edits on the fly, too, if he's just like, we've had so much dead air, we're like going to put college radio out of business here. So he'll jump in and he'll have questions. But I mean, it's nice to have a third person in the room to help with all of that stuff too, to come up with thoughts, because you don't always have time when you're doing the interview.
And it's really the art of interview.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what you're getting at. And I think interviews been around for a while. You got late night and all that. But podcast is now it's the new radio. And so no one listens to radio anymore. They listen to podcasts because they can narrow their subject to what they're much more interested in. Like, even some radio programs that I listen to, I'd rather listen to the podcast because I don't have all that other clutter.
I think there's something to that in that, like, podcasts are the new radio, in that maybe there's, not that this is necessary, but there's a side of it, I think, that people appreciate, that, like, when you're talking on a podcast, you're talking like a human being and you're talking authentically and you're not reading from a piece of paper, and they're invested in who you are and what you think. And sometimes I think editing can be a just slippery slope, because sometimes it can take away from that. If you're trying to get rid of all the ums, or you're trying to like take the humanity out of it. I keep thinking, I'm like, AI can make the perfect podcast right now. And what's the point of us making a podcast? And that's, I think, that we're human beings and that we all have our own thing to say. And I think of the podcast that I love, and I'm like, This American Life, music's coming in while someone's talking, and it's perfect. And my other favorite podcast is Pete Holmes, which is like 5 minutes of him talking about nothing. Or no, not 5 minutes, 5 hours of him talking about nothing. And I think that's the fun of it. You mentioned a little bit about video. Maybe we do a short little bit of talking about video, about our thoughts on video podcasts, how you've thought about it with your own podcast. If you do it, if you don't do it, if you want to do it, Yeah, and how you see that kind of fitting into what you do. Let's start with Michael.
I've thought about it. I don't do it. I did set up a tripod with the iPhone once. I did not do it. I have a conference coming up that they want us to do live stream. I don't even know how to do live stream, but it seems like when you see podcasts happening at conferences, a lot of times it's on video. It's a lot to handle. But at this point, I'm not ready for that at all.
And I think we'd love to do video, but it is another one of those pieces where you say, I don't mind the workload now. Would I mind the workload at that point? And if I find somebody that wants to show up and do a bunch of video, if Johnny says, I'm loving this, I want to do, see, you get this. And I'm very much like, you put what you want on your plate, and like, we're happy to keep serving. Like, if you've got more, but you say when. Like, that's fine. That's good. So I find somebody that's interested in saying capturing video, and we found somebody recently, hopefully, that will do some social media stuff for us, which I think is a big deal, because I can do social media, but as an ADHD enjoyer, I'm like, okay, that's done forever, and then it's like 2 days later, I'm like, I haven't posted anything and whatever. So then I kind of forget and come back and forget and come back. So knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses. So we would love to do more, but I think it is a time sink, and you can spend as much time as you want. So I'm hopeful that we eventually find somebody to do a bit more, or we can capture it easily so that at least I can use it for social clips. If not, like putting out full episodes, because that's a lot.
And I think you're talking about cost, basically. Like, are you willing to make the investment? And if Sirius offers me $125 million, call her daddy. I'll do it. I'll do the video. I'll get somebody to do the video.
Hey, we'll get two angles then, right?
But it's really all about how do we get some revenue generation?
That makes sense. For mine, I decided I was going to do video the whole time, but not focus too much on editing the video. Do it so I could use clips, so I could like share, so I could record the whole thing and then remember the moment that was the best and do a vertical cut of that. And it's, it's a lot of wasted files and time, and is it worth it? Who knows? I'll say one thing that, and then we can get into remote podcasts. I'm not sure if you guys do that. While we're on video, one thing that I've done for a lot of them is use an app called Riverside that you can record on, that can make the video side of it easier if you're doing remote interviews, because it like records the file. It records the video file directly to their computer and the audio file directly to their computer, so you're not like dealing with the horrible like Zoom latency. And at the end of it, you can say, give me an AI edit, and it'll do that. And then you'll have a whole edited video podcast and audio. And then it has this thing called Magic Clips, and it'll turn that into like a 30-second clip. So it's super handy. It still takes some human.
What was that called again?
Riverside.io.
Okay.
And actually, I work for a nonprofit called Aftersight, do wonderful work. We serve the blind and low vision community across the entire state. So if anybody wants to go make a nice donation, we're having a drive right now trying to raise a bunch of money. Go to givebutter.com/aftersight2020, or just look us up, whatever. But why I brought it up is that we use Riverside there because a lot of the work that we do is using audio to serve people who are blind or low vision, because we serve an aging population. So maybe you don't master phone use once your vision starts to deteriorate, that type of thing. It's a very easy to access and easy to find service. So we do that. So we have a lot of podcasts as part of that work. And the platform that our podcast producer decided to go with was actually Riverside. He said, yeah, this is a great tool. So I just want to use all of that to sort of piggyback on what Tim was saying. Yeah, it seems like it's really good. And he was extolling a lot of the same virtues where, yeah, you can record a Zoom call. You don't necessarily want to, because I think we probably, at least most of us, have gone, oh, geez, I missed that webinar. I should probably get it. And then it's like, oh, dear Lord, this is the worst thing in the world. And you try to put the thing in, and you're doing the dishes to distract you from how bad it sounds, and it's awful. But there are solutions out there that you can do remote stuff with, and I guess they are typically quite happy with the quality.
Yeah. For the most part, it's been pretty... Like, the AI editing is kind of tricky because it, like... There's definitely moments where it seems really unnatural. It'll like try and get rid of some that'll just make it seem really glitchy and weird. But I'm sure as anything, like, it keeps getting better. And there's so many things like that keep popping up that you can just give it an hour of a podcast and it'll be like, here's 30 seconds that...
And I think they come with some other tools too that are actually pretty cool. Like you can say, getting somebody else into that room is like there's a management system for that. So there's other features that I haven't discussed that I don't even know about that I think we use as the organization, and that benefits other people because like I don't know how to get in, like I'm not good at like how would I with the Zoom and whatever, and it's like no, just here's a link. It's really easy for you. So there's other features in that if you want to do remote stuff.
Nice. Well, I'm gonna do one more question around here, and then open it up if you guys have questions, and then I can have more questions. But let's we'll do it's we've had enough of me. Let's have your guys' questions. So be thinking of them while we're talking about this next one, which is growth and finding an audience. What are you guys doing now to do that? What do you intend to do? I know if I was asked this question, I would be like, I want to do all these things. I don't have the time. I'm doing nothing. So I think it's like when I'm asking this question, it's like both. What's the ideal? What's practical for you as a human? What are your thoughts on it? That's a professional podcaster question, right?
Right. Well, I'm just mostly utilizing social media right now, but also connecting through my network. I think there's two areas to explore when you're talking about growth, and that is one, A, how do you get more listeners, and B, how do you get more people to interview? And so it's tricky. It's one of the things with the Voices of Colorado Manufacturing, what we had to do is pivot to on-site interviewing. So we bring the podcast gear from Longmont Public Media and we take it to the factory. And so because people who work in factories, the CEO, he's just not going to drive to Longmont. He's not going to drive to Longmont from Colorado Springs and do an interview with us. And so we are bringing the podcast to the subject. And so I have a pretty broad network, especially in manufacturing in Colorado. And so that's one way I'm growing it is with the people that I'm interviewing and the companies that I'm interviewing strategically. And then mostly through social media in terms of viewership or listenership. And like, share, and follow.
Yeah, and those really are big for trying to get audience, like gaming the algorithm to tell people about you. We've also started doing stickers, so we work with Jetpack stickers. If you want one, you can find me after the show. I got tons. So we do that, and we launched a merch page recently, so there's that kind of thing too. There's on-demand merch sites that are pretty cool, but you're never quite sure what you're going to get, and they are a bit more expensive, so you have to try to convince people to spend maybe a bit more than they normally would on that type of thing. And then a lot of it, is going out into the community, doing events like this. We did Unity in the community, so if anybody's interested in a political discussion, rousing, I know, but we had Marta actually was on. County commissioners, we had people running for office in Longmont. I think that's an important discussion to have, and going out to do that. And they go, I haven't heard of you. Who are you? And it's like, here, I have a sticker. Go home and find us. And we saw a bump from that, and that helps. And then also trying to get social media posts consistently, and that's probably the hardest part, because this is kind of fun. Like, I like this. Going home and then grinding out like, a couple different hours or maybe even more than that, trying to make little video clips of stuff like that is like, okay, well, this is how you do it. You have to be consistent, get seen, grow that. So there's all that stuff too. So if you want a podcast, like, you can make a podcast. If you don't care too much, if you get a ton of, maybe all of a sudden you have this windfall and it just happens. But if you want to grind it out, there's actually kind of a lot of work behind the scenes that you can do to make that better. And it's going and being in the community, and it's being online, and it's doing all that stuff. So.
Yeah, so I mean, I try to post every time I post an episode, and that's all I really do for it. Other than that, just being out in Longmont, out in the community, just as people are talking, I'll be like, oh, hey, we just talked about that on Side Dish, and they're like, what's a side dish? And then, I tell them, and then I make them pull their phone out, and then I hit follow for them. So one person at a time. No, but with like bands, I've done it where it's like, because I feel like with a podcast, it's easier because the goal is like a goal for me is like, I want us to have an episode every week. It's like if we just consistently post every Thursday morning, 7 o'clock is when I think I post them actually at 6 a.m. because I'm like, people are going to probably listen to it on the commute, either going home or, so I try to just be consistent with like getting the episode out. Otherwise, it's like with the band is like, I'll just post a bunch when things are happening, and then I just don't post when things aren't happening because it's not fun.
I know that struggle. Nice. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, we got a question, and I've got an extra microphone here. We're recording this so the people on the internet can hear it if you're game. Here it is.
The people on the internet.
That's what we're doing this all for, is them.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nick. I am new to the Longmont area. I just moved here in mid-July from Missouri. Happy to be here.
Welcome.
Thank you. Just as you guys have done the Side Dish podcast, I'm curious what you think like the biggest like issue in the community is. I mean, I feel like I have a sense of it already. Like just in 2 months on the ground, I feel like what everybody talks about and what seems to be eating at everybody. And what I'm already kind of sensing a little bit is housing affordability for sure. It seems like that's the biggest issue in Boulder County. I'm just curious if that's what you thought as well.
I think it really depends on who you're talking to. If you're talking to somebody with a nice house in a nice neighborhood, they would probably say density is a big factor that they're afraid of. But if you talk to most of the community, I think it's housing and housing affordability. Availability, especially of small single-family homes, like units that you could buy condominium style, duplexes, quadplexes. And I'd encourage you to go listen to the Unity in the Community event because a lot of discussion was given to these topics. Housing was a really big discussion, and there are some candidates out there that have concrete plans on how to do that. And our show, and while our event was trying to be nonpartisan, I am very much partisan, and I'm going to vote for Shaquille because he's got real on-the-ground solutions for that kind of thing. So I'll use my little platform to promote that. But he's very much talking about this too, and that's a big one. People also talk about transit, getting around. You just got here, so
I don't have a car, so I'm feeling that as well.
Yeah, that's a big one. So getting around, especially without a car, trying to get around, and they're like, traffic's not so bad in Longmont. It's like, I agree. You can get kind of parked in front of your favorite coffee shop almost any time of day, really. It's not. Parking is not that bad, but moving across on Ken Pratt or north-south on Main Street certain times of day it's onerous, right, at best, and every once in a while you worry about getting clipped at the lights. So those types of things are top of mind. I think everybody's got those. The housing situation, though, because I moved here 10-ish years ago, housing in some areas has doubled or tripled in value. Makes it very prohibitive. So I would just very much echo, housing's a big one. And then you have somebody from the business community who have a different view saying, well, minimum wage this or that and whatever. But but common people, I think it's mostly housing.
I agree.
Not the groundhogs. I like
The prairie dogs.
Prairie
No,
dogs. They're not
hey,
groundhogs. That
Prairie
was
dogs,
embarrassing.
yeah.
Do they have the plague again?
I think they do. And I'm editing this out.
Okay.
I've got the control. No.
Nice.
Yeah, quick question. My name is Liam. I haven't done a lot of podcasting, but just curious how much like script writing you do, how much pre-planning you do before talking. Is it just sort of jump in and record, or are you doing many, many hours of kind of script writing? I'm just curious what your approach is to that.
I think that's a great question, and I don't script it, but I do. I mean, I write down some things, bullet points, especially in relation to interviewing a person. So my podcasts are all interviews with an individual, so I want to be sure that I'm asking relevant questions to them, their career, whatever they're manufacturing. And so there is research involved, but I really try to rely, I'm sure Brady, I think it's probably very much like this too, much more about on what the conversation is. So the words that they say, the conversation that we're having, I try to add questions that are relevant to what they're actually saying then. So let it come flow freely.
I would 100% agree with that. I think in terms of research and scripting, there's no scripting for us. There's definitely questions that we are. Every once in a while, somebody say, "Oh, I'd like to talk about this or that." We had a guy who does the street legal golf carts on recently. Guy's a walking billboard. He knew his stuff. He got it all out. It was a cool conversation. I learned a ton about it. And some other people show up and they're like, "I don't care if I talk about my business or not." But he's just starting this new business, so yeah, he wanted to talk about it. He wanted to promote it. There's space for that on our show. And if I have time and if I have the wherewithal, like I'll call Marta out again because I interviewed her recently and I said, "What's Smokey the Bear like behind the camera? If he's not being photographed?" And she looked at me very vacantly for a second and said, "Oh, this must be from social media." That was a very cool event. It was fire awareness and that type of thing. But I like to find something that's a little goofy and push somebody off a little bit, or find something that somebody's been really involved in or thinks really important, or pieces that I like to highlight. And I'll make a note sheet or put stuff in my little notebook, wherever that's at, or on the web or whatever. Other research that we do, because we do two different types. So we do interviews, and then we also do a buzz cut, which is just sort of a brief run around town of what's going on. So yeah, you saw the streets being torn up. This restaurant opened, that one closed. The post office is doing this. Hey, trash pickup might be late. It's a holiday, like stuff like that. But other
What
things
is going on with the prairie dogs?
What is? We actually mentioned
Groundhogs.
once that they were euthanizing them on with gas or something at one point. It was like, I don't know if we should say this. We're gonna get some, but you get the funniest stuff when you say stuff like that. You're not really breaching anything because it's posted on the city's website. They're talking about ways that they need to manage these in a humane way, and they're like, we're gonna put some CO2 or whatever it is in there, and they'll just sort of pass out, and then that's the end of it. It's like, I guess it's as good as you can go. So I'll do a bunch. I'll try to post to my socials. I'll try to take a bunch of notes so that when I go into that conversation, I have some things in the can ready to talk about. But that's as far as we get with scripting, is just trying to take notes so I'm apprised of the situation. And Annie, my co-host, is in commercial real estate, so she's always got the scuttlebutt. She's, did you hear about this? I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I get a lot of those details too, which is a lot of fun.
I'll usually write out about 10 questions for an interview, just so I have them, and then hope I don't look at it. It's always better if I start with that and then let it go organically. So, yeah,
I do no preparation.
that's how we do it.
We're happy to have you. We're lucky for it.
I think for me, having a little bit of preparation helps me not be making remarks or talking about myself. I really want the platform to be about the person that we're interviewing.
Yes.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Matt, and I wondered about some of the experience with remote interviews. I would be very much interested in using the super professional studio downstairs as the host, but my interviewees are going to be perhaps on a Zoom call. My interest is in maybe an older population that might struggle even with technology. I wondered if some of you could talk about the technical side of that imbalance, maybe in hey, the host sounds amazing, but maybe not so much the guest.
Yeah, I can tell you a bit about the studio down there. So it's a Rodecaster Pro that we use that you can plug it into your laptop, and then it'll take it as an audio interface. So that's a good way to do that. And then you can record on Riverside from there. Also, we have 3 Sony ZV-E10 cameras that always live down there too, so you can plug that in USB-C to your laptop and use that as the camera with Riverside. Yeah, so there's that. And then in terms of, I was going to throw it to you for kind of matching high quality audio with less high quality audio. See if you have thoughts on that.
So we have had exactly one call-in since I've been doing this podcast, and I had a plan, and it did not work.
It almost worked.
It almost
got
worked.
so close. I was like, you're a genius. It got so close.
Then I wasn't. No, because that board down there does have a Bluetooth feature, so where I'm I can hook up my phone and record on there. And actually, I discovered in this process too. So actually, I do some work before the show sometimes. It's just not for interviews. But I was looking at, you can actually record on Google Voice. So if you have someone call a Google Voice number, you can actually record it there. And I actually just had my wife call me, and we just had I just had a conversation. I'm oh yeah, by the way, I recorded you. Bye. And just and then I listened back, and I'm oh, this sounds great. So that's something I feel could be used, and that was kind of the goal. But then it was, and what was the issue we had? We had that everyone couldn't end up hearing each other.
There was something weird where the phone call itself wasn't recording or something like that. And it's
the Bluetooth wasn't quite interacting.
Something. It was just one small technical thing that felt like we could overcome it, but also we were supposed to be starting
Yeah, we had an interview.
We had to go. So what we actually wound up doing is laying the phone on or putting the phone on a microphone.
Yeah, where it was Brady's all right, I interview now. Okay. And just literally held his phone up directly
and honestly,
to the butt of it, and it turned out pretty good. Where it's I played with the audio a little more, and I think I ended up doing a different EQ on it, but it ended up sounding like it was coming out of a phone. But for someone calling in on a podcast, it was oh, this is perfect. Hey, I even chopped in phone ringing noises in there and stuff. Where it's look, it's a phone call. This is what a phone call sounds like. So that was kind of I guess setting expectations for the listener in a way. So I guess I don't really have a good way of recording remotely yet.
It was really close, and I think that the tech is probably there if you can figure it out. And if you do figure it out, let us know.
Yeah, 5 minutes of playing, we would have been there.
Yeah, I think we got so close to that one. Riverside. We did try Zoom, like I've mentioned. I know Zoom and Teams and stuff have added some high fidelity modes into theirs. So if you're stuck using things like that, go around and look for ways to tweak some of the settings because they make all the difference in the world. It changes the compression or gets rid of it, and it makes it so much higher quality. So I think where we were at in the pandemic when we were recording, we were doing all remote all the time. The quality was just not great compared to being able to multi-track in the basement where Brady's too loud, I'll bring him down, and Annie's too quiet, I'll bring her up. To like solutions like Riverside, Zoom's probably about the worst, but I think there are ways that it's gotten better. So if push comes to shove, you can do it.
You're not using Skype.
Is Skype better?
Does Skype still exist?
Skype.
I can't even.
Honestly, if I were going to use like a group chat thing these days, I use Discord for my friends, and I'm not sure what the recording capabilities of that is, but it's like it's a gaming community type thing, but it's been used for so many others, and there's voice channels, and we'll all sit in there and we'll put our headphones on, and we're able to record because we record game clips, and then we send each other game clips, and we're all a bunch of huge dorks, So it's like, check this out, but you can hear everybody's voices going in there as well. So when the thing is capturing, it's capturing the mic that goes out and all the stuff that's coming in. And sitting in that type of chat room, in Discord specifically, is the place where I've lived that feels most like having a natural conversation with the other people in that room versus anything else. Because Teams is always trying to screw with the audio and bring it up and down and all these different things. And you go into a Discord channel and you wind up with the sort of rough and tumble, talking over each other, but that very conversational ways that things happen, the life moments of a conversation still happen there because the quality's good enough. So it's kind of a cool way to do it. Is that a good way to record a podcast? I don't know. If you can just record your inputs and outputs, then maybe. I've never tried it. But there are solutions that, in places that you wouldn't think. So be creative.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Martha. I have what feels like a very basic, maybe before the basic.
We're here for that.
Thank you all. You've talked about Riverside as an app, but I'm just curious about what other apps, because I've heard plug this in and it'll get to your computer. And then what? I don't know if you could speak to the different apps that you have used and maybe give some type of suggestion, because somehow it has to get then to the interwebs.
Series of tubes.
Yeah, I'll start. Yeah, so we'll talk about the editing apps, and then the distribution apps mostly, right?
Yeah.
So for editing apps, what we have here is Logic in the Audio Studio, which is more for music, but it's also really similar to GarageBand. If you have a MacBook, it probably comes with GarageBand for free, and that is plenty.
GarageBand rocks.
It's the best.
I've been recording on GarageBand since I was 10, and even then, listening to stuff I recorded back then is oh wow, that's got to be user friendly because I was not that smart.
Me too.
But we distribute through Spotify for Creators, which we just put it right up on Spotify, and they'll give you some analytics, and then it gets it out everywhere then. But yeah, I use Logic, but it's definitely if you have an Apple device and there's GarageBand on it, that's an incredible tool. And even if you just look online, you could Google how to make voice sound better for podcasts, and it'll be put a compressor, use this compressor, set it to 2-to-1, put an EQ, cut the low ends off, do nothing else. And it's all very stepwise, where that might have sounded like it was a lot, but that's literally a page I read on Reddit where I was how do I make this podcast sound good? Because I'm editing it like it's music vocals, where it's why do they sound like they're yelling at me? But yeah, Logic, GarageBand. What's another good free one? I'm trying to think of
Audacity is the other one that gets used.
That's the one. Yeah, I used that for a
Audacity
while
is
too.
It's freeware. It's nice. It's not super flashy, but it's got quite a bit of tools. Yeah, and it's free. You download it, and it'll update it all the time. But then you save, and then you just have to know how to save. So what kind of file do you usually export that as before you upload it?
So I normally export it as a WAV, but MP3 is fine as well. I don't know why I picked WAV, honestly. I'm sure I read something somewhere, and it was just WAV is the right way to do it. So yeah, I bounce it out of the project, which in the one I have is just I set a bar that tells it where I want it to do, because there's normally some rambling before the podcast, and then I cut in the music. So I started at the music, mute everything before it, and I dictate when in this program that what do I want to send out to everyone. And then after that, I normally end up listening to it again because there's no way I edited it right, and then I post it.
So we use Spotify for Creators, and then we use that. Others tie into us with the RSS feed, right? That's how that all works.
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe so.
But you don't have to use Spotify. Do you use Spotify?
I don't. So I actually am on Spotify. I'm on all of the apps. I use a distribution system called Podbean, and it hits everything. I had a friend who was like, "Oh no, I have an Android. I don't have Spotify," and she had access to the podcast, and so it's reliable. It does cost money.
Yeah, and I think like for Podbean and some of those, like so Spotify for artists, like probably the first one that most people use, free, and like that's what I use, great. And I think where you want to change is like if you're going to start monetizing it, or you want more like analytics, because I think Podbean probably gives you a lot more options for like revenue sharing and
It
stuff.
really does. Well, and yeah, you can add advertising, which I'm not really excited about trying to do. I actually fast forward through advertisements on my podcast app that I use, which is Apple, the Apple phone. But the one thing, going back to editing and what the complications of starting a podcast, I did not know how hard it was going to be to publish it. And all of the different apps have different hoops that you have to jump through. If you want to do it on YouTube, or if you want to do it on Apple, it has to be this size of a graphic, and it can't have the words over it. And everyone has to have the name of it on top of the graphic. It's just so many things that you have to jump through. But Podbean made it easier, at least, for addressing all of those in a few click boxes and giving me the exact information. So I don't have to go digging for what the image size needs to be in pixels.
All righty, maybe one more question,
Yeah,
or a
I
couple
had-
short ones.
Yeah, I had a question on, I guess, the logistics of actually putting out your podcast. It was mentioned, you mentioned that you want to go out first thing in the morning or whatever, and how that's set up. If it's, do you have your audience, what time, I'm just curious about the logistics of best times to do your broadcasts when you get to that point, if that's an issue.
So I mean, I picked Thursday morning because we record on Wednesday. I try to edit pretty much immediately after we record, and then my thought was that a weekend is I think of this with like music releases as well. Is like there's so much going on a weekend that it's going to get buried. So I try to do Thursday morning with the idea that it's like, right in the morning, if they pull up their phone and they follow us, it's going to be on their feed then that, hey, there's a new episode out. So that was really all the thought that I put into it as far as like when to put it out. It's like I feel like Thursday's good. If they miss it on the weekend, catch it on Monday, then it's not, the stuff we talked about isn't irrelevant by then.
Yeah, and I think part of it too is trying to be consistent so that even if somebody says, well, I don't want to listen to it on Thursday, I want to listen on Tuesday, they've always got one that's there for them on that Tuesday.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal. And I think if you really want to dig into the weeds, you can say, okay, when are podcasts listened to the most? You go on Google, you'll find an answer and probably get 10 different versions of that
Commutes.
answer. And you kind of have to decide, what kind of community do we have? Who's going to be listening? How old do we assume people are? Are they working? Are they not? Is this a commute day? Is it not? So all of those different things. Are we reaching people that go hiking, and in which case they're probably not listening to us while they're out in the wilderness? Maybe they are. I don't know. I like to ramble, and if that's what you need while you're rambling, that's pretty good.
Write that down.
Yeah. Then by all means, right? Like ramble and ramble. So I think you kind of, there's some guesswork to it, but probably there's a lot of different answers that different places will give you, because you could probably say like Apple Podcasts, what's the most popular time for people to be listening to a podcast? And they would have their answer. But Spotify listeners would probably be slightly different, because it's the same with all the social media things, where you can post to Facebook at this time or that time on a Tuesday, and that's their high point, or Twitter or whatever. They're all different. So I think it really depends on and those vary wildly. So I think depending on your audience and who you have and stuff. But I think we're both saying consistency is good, so that
It's just building that trust with your audience almost. That's like, hey, we're going to be here Thursday morning if you want us, and just like build that for the community more so. And I feel like that's almost more just like building an audience.
did you have a similar, different philosophy?
No, I don't.
When
I
do you
have
release
zero
podcasts?
consistency.
Oh, okay.
Not there at all. And
It's
I do
new
look
to us
forward
as well.
to the Side Dish podcast.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, my philosophy is get 10 of them out right away, say you're doing it weekly, and then go away forever. So don't do that.
10
Get
in a
that
week
backlog.
is pretty ambitious.
Yeah, season 2's coming though. Whenever.
Yeah, whatever.
Do you have any more questions? Let's call it good. I have one more question. Let's do one more round. First of all, thank you guys so much for being here, for coming. Again, I can show you tours. If you have any questions afterwards, find me. Let's do one more round. Where can we find your podcast, and how can we support what you're doing?
You can find us at sidedishlongmont.com. You can email us at sidedishlongmont@gmail.com. As far as support, if you're looking to, if you want to jump in and help us with something, we're looking for people to help with.
Yeah,
with
we are always
stuff.
looking for other people that are interested in helping out with the podcast. Johnny does production. We have somebody, I hope, that'll help us out a little bit with social media marketing. But there's a lot of other stuff that happens behind the scenes, whether it be helping to keep our schedule on track. There's just a lot of things. Anything that you can think of, like, I might be able to help.
Even just reaching out and just being like, what would you like to hear on Side Dish would be awesome, because it's like, we kind of got our thing going and people like that. But if there's something that you think we haven't talked about in Longmont, whether it's the prairie dog or Asian food markets or whatever it may be, just reach out to us and let us know what we can do, because obviously y'all are part of this community being here at Longmont Public Media. So if there's something that Side Dish that you want to hear us talk about, just send us an email.
Yeah, by all means. And then other things, promotion. If anybody would like a sticker, again, I got some stickers here. Happy to give them away.
Something.
We have launched a merch page too. So if you look up Side Dish and Fourth Wall, we have some really cool Side Dish or Longmont versus Nobody shirts. I think we've all seen the other ones, and I'm like, nah, this has got like a rainbow motif, and it says Longmont versus Nobody. So I'm more into that vibe. That was sort of a natural progression from our thing, which was like, I don't know, there's no shirts. And I'm more like, meh. Like Longmont versus Nobody, So.
I love that. Just listen, share, like, and rate the podcasts if you're on Spotify.
5 stars.
It's Workforce Bliss or Voices of Colorado Manufacturing are my 2 podcasts, and you can find us at vocmanufacturing.com or just look on your favorite podcast app.
Oh, we also take money.
We will take your
That
money.
goes a long way, yeah. Money goes a long way.
Any of the 4 of us will take your money if
Yeah.
you
We'll all
offer
take
it.
money.
Heavily. It's funny you say that, but this last year, like, we don't spend a ton of money on, but we started doing a little bit more self-promotion and managed to get enough to pay for expenses and have a little bit of merch to give away. And it's like, this is really cool. Like, we've never really tried before. That's really cool. So it's just really cool to have a space like that. And if you want to help, again, yeah, like you said, right, if you subscribe, money's always good. Ideas, just knowing that you're out there in the community, like getting emails and stuff, like, we are chuffed to bits, as they say over the pond, to get emails. And I know people say, like, we heard from a listener, it was great. It's like, honest to God, I love hearing from people. It's so much fun.
We've talked about pretty much every email we've received since I've been there. Where
I
it's
love
like,
talking.
oh my God, people are listening. Like,
So just anyway, just be connected, be involved, whatever.
Nice. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. Let's give a round of applause for Michael, Brady, and Johnny.
Thank you to Tim. Yeah, echo that.
And Longmont Public Media. Learn more at longmontpublicmedia.org, and we'll see you around soon. How do you end a podcast? Do you have outro music?
We'd like to thank Andy Epler and David Cutter Music for our intro and outro music. You can find us again at sidedishlongmont@gmail.com. If anybody has anything to say, you can find me on social media as Brady, Longmont Dork, or I'm on Facebook. Look for the one with the nice mountain single on the back, because the other one is not officially ours. Thank you. Peace.
None of this should be taken as
Slow
personal,
fade
legal,
outs.
or financial advice. You can't say.